Okay, guys, what a time we're living in right now. Israel and Iran at war, and the United States appears to be on the verge of launching airstrikes all across Iran, specifically at nuclear facilities with bunker busters that Israel themselves cannot do. And we're going to talk about today Mehdi Hasan just absolutely dog walks Piers Morgan and his justification for the war in Iran. Piers Morgan basically saying, oh, this is totally justified. This is a great job by Israel. That's basically his entire narrative here. But I mean, it's pretty insane when you look at a guy like Trump, who campaigned on being against war and that it'll end all wars. He was in Saudi Arabia saying that the age of neocons is basically over. Meanwhile, he's signing off on a war in the Middle East right now, totally with American financial support and also defensive military support as well, shooting missiles out of the sky. And it appears the United States is about to directly enter the war. So Mehdi Hasan basically just destroys the justification for Israel going in here. And basically, the Israelis' justification was, oh, Iran was about to get a nuclear weapon and attack Israel. They're calling it a preemptive attack. Total bull crap. That's total BS. They were not even close to a nuclear bomb. And guys, they were literally negotiating a settlement. There was literally a negotiation set for that Sunday in Oman that was sabotaged by the Israelis and frankly sabotaged by Trump. The negotiations were a total joke. Obviously, it was a facade to give the Iranians a false sense of security. But here we are. What a time we're in right now. And again, Piers Morgan defending Israel. He's also talking about in some of the interviews he's done. For example, like they're asking him, he had this other guy on, George Galloway, basically said to him, Piers, what's your opinion on Israel bombing a state-run media center? And he's like, I don't even know about that. Like, bro, what do you mean you don't know about that? It was all over the news. It's a huge story. The guest you just had on and interviewed was bombed in the building, and he didn't even know. So totally insane, defending all the Israeli actions. And Mehdi Hasan basically says, why is Israel able to have nuclear weapons but not Iran? So totally wild. We're going to show you the first clip and then we'll talk about it after. Mehdi Hasan basically destroying the justification for Israel's war here against Iran, offensive war. And guys, the Americans, Trump seems to be frothing at the mouth to go to war with Iran. It is completely insane. Telling everyone to immediately evacuate Tehran in 2 in the morning. What? I mean, it's completely wild stuff. And he met with in a situation room today. It appears as though American strikes could be imminent. By the time you're watching this video, American strikes could have occurred. So totally wild stuff here. Let's get into the first clip and we'll talk about it after. Here's Mehdi Hasan destroying Piers Morgan. And guys, by the way, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's super good for the algorithm. My Patreon and Amazon links are in the description. So check out the Patreon. Thanks for watching. Here's the first clip.
Enrichment of uranium. It's the next stage that somebody who wants to create a nuclear bomb, right? So imminent, look, what do I mean by imminent? As I said in the panel, it can be weeks, months, a year, whatever, but they've reached a stage of enrichment.
Piers.
But they have the capability to take it to another stage and create a bomb.
Yes. So let's find more agreement between us. I agree. That is capability, right? They have enough highly enriched uranium to build up to 9 bombs, I believe. They have 400 kilograms of uranium.
So that is an imminent threat if it's in the wrong hands, right? We can agree on that.
No, it's not. No, it's no.
But why not?
No, because unfortunately having a civil nuclear program is totally fine. Having enriched uranium is fine. The issue is if you weaponize it and have a weapons program. And Tulsi Gabbard, no friend of radical Islam, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, said in March that the U.S. intelligence community's consensus view is that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, does not have a nuclear weapon, has not authorized a nuclear weapons program. The IAEA, Piers, in that report, you must have seen the line in their summary, said there are no credible indications of an ongoing, undeclared, structured nuclear program. Even the IAEA says there's no nuclear weapons program. Their boss, the IAEA chief, Piers, said last week, you cannot attack nuclear facilities in Iran. So, no, it's not an imminent threat. And under international law, Piers, this is the key point. If a weapon is a year away, you cannot say we're under imminent threat. That does not give you a right to self-defense. Otherwise, everyone in the world would go around just bombing people. You and I oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We agree on that, right? Putin claimed that Ukraine would one day attack Russia with NATO support. That's why I'm doing it. That was a bullshit argument. You and I rejected Putin's bullshit argument in Ukraine. You and I have rejected the Israeli bullshit argument now in Gaza. You don't believe what they're saying about Gaza. I don't know why you're believing them on this when you were rightly calling out the bullshit from the UK and the US in 2003 over Iraq. Saddam Hussein was not an imminent threat, and Iran was not an imminent threat, and Israel attacked them illegally last week while there were nuclear negotiations going on, Piers. One last point. If Israel cared about stopping a nuclear weapon, you would...
Okay, so the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, said they're at 60% uranium, which is higher than they should be. Okay. And also, maybe they're trying to get a nuclear weapon because they're trying to prevent an Israeli strike, which if they had a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't be invaded. That's why North Korea, for example, has not been invaded or regime changed because they have nuclear weapons. They're trying to use it as a deterrent. The idea that you're seeing from some American politicians, which, by the way, the amount of absolute propaganda you're seeing on Fox News, for example, even to CNN's, most of the people they have on, they're IDF spokespeople. They're pushing war. It's very rare you'll see anti-war people on these networks. And if they are on these networks, it's basically to ridicule them like, you don't support war. Like totally to demean them and smear them. It's completely disgraceful. You have Lindsey Graham saying Americans should risk their lives to defend Israel against Iran. Totally insane, saying I'm willing to take that sacrifice or risk. Totally disgusting stuff. You have Randy Fine saying bombs away, who the other day advocated for dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza. Then they asked him about it, and he said, no, I actually wouldn't support that because it would kill the hostages and the fallout would go to Israel. So no concern whatsoever for the million people in the Gaza Strip. Totally disgusting. And again, by the way, guys, Trump actually backed out of the deal with Iran, where they had the deal and they were being inspected by the IAEA, and their enrichment was 3%, not 60%. So if they didn't leave the deal, everything would be totally fine. So again, and by the way, the Israelis oppose that deal because, again, let's be honest, guys, this is what I think at this point. The entire goal was not about the nuclear program. The entire goal was to overthrow the regime. That's the stated goal now. It's basically the goal now. They're openly saying we're going to try and overthrow the regime. That's clearly what they're going for. That was the intention from the very beginning, trying to overthrow them and get a pro-Western or pro-Israeli government there, which is, again, exactly what Netanyahu wanted in Iraq and Afghanistan. And how exactly did that work out? Totally ridiculous. Billions of dollars spent and thousands of American soldiers killed. Absolutely just disgusting stuff that's going on right now. Not to mention, you have Tulsi Gabbard. The idea that Piers Morgan is saying there was an imminent strike coming from Iran on Israel, a nuclear strike. What are you talking about? That's just complete propaganda. And Tulsi Gabbard, the intelligence director, the United States Trump-appointed intelligence director, said like a month ago that they have no reason to think Iran is going for a nuclear weapon. This is the intelligence director, the head of the intelligence agency. So she's saying this, and they asked Trump about it, and he says, "Oh, I don't really care what she said. I think they're getting a nuke." So like facts literally don't matter. And again, they're not even providing justification for why they're doing this. So again, totally disgraceful what we're seeing going on here. This is basically weapons of mass destruction all over again with Iraq. And I think it's pretty clear the U.S. is going to join the war. And it's honestly stunning because Trump literally campaigned against this. I'm sorry, if you're still supporting him after this, I don't know what to tell you. He basically is broken. That was his major campaign thing, no new wars. He said Kamala Harris will get us in all these wars. How are you feeling now? This is a disgrace. People like Charlie Kirk, for example, I don't trust anyone more than President Trump. Imagine it was Kamala Harris in this position. Absolutely disgraceful. And also, not just the Tulsi Gabbard thing. We see U.S. officials told CNN that Iran would not even be able to get a nuclear weapon for at least a year. This is a U.S. official leaking to CNN telling them this. So beyond parody at this point. And also, and Piers Morgan's like, oh, imminent. It could be a few weeks, a few days, a few months, a year. If they're a year away, that's not imminent, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Total BS that he's spewing. And he's basically trying to push America into another war. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I think Mehdi Hasan at the end brings up a really good point. Bringing up Russia, who appears is very pro-Ukraine. And again, Russia did an illegal offensive invasion of Ukraine. Basically, and of course, Putin's justification, which is bullshit, basically saying, hey, NATO's going to attack us one day. This is a preemptive attack. Everyone said, oh, that's of course BS. That's ridiculous. And people like Piers Morgan bought it. But when it's Israel in this case, no, it was a preemptive attack. Beyond ridiculous, okay? Beyond ridiculous. So utterly disgraceful here. I don't even know how people buy this stuff. I mean, and again, it's just amazing the propaganda you see on mainstream television in the United States pushing this war that the majority of the American people do not want at all. But if you watch the mainstream news, you think, oh, everyone wants this. Disgraceful. Disgraceful. Here's a second clip, and we'll talk about it after.
To yourself. Number two is to have an agreement in which Iran agrees to stop enriching uranium at 60% or 90%, right? Those are the two options.
Actually, I don't agree with that. I don't agree. There's actually a third option, because the third option is doing exactly what Israel's doing now, which is using air power. Controlling the skies over Tehran and using intelligence gathered by Mossad, apparently, reportedly, and using specific intelligence to target specific commanders, scientists, and nuclear sites. I mean, that's the third option.
Well, That's not a third option because it doesn't stop the nuclear program. All it does is delay it. And in
but
fact,
have you spoken to any military people? Be honest, Mehdi. Have you spoken to any military? I've got 2 former British Army colonels in my family. I ran this past them earlier. Both of them thought this was justified, right? Who are the military commanders you've talked to who do not think this is justified?
Admiral Mike McMullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under George W. Bush, said there's no way you can get rid of Iranian nuclear program without boots on the ground. And by the way, you know who said on Friday? The Israel's own national security advisor said on Friday, there is no kinetic solution to this. Air power cannot do this, right? Because some of their facilities are underground. Because scientists who killed can be replaced, right? You cannot end Iran's nuclear program via bombing. And by the way, Israel tried this before in 1981. They always hold it up as some great example. They bombed Saddam's nuclear facility in Osirak. Everyone who studied that since, nuclear scientists, weapons experts, say that actually that didn't delay Saddam's bomb. It accelerated Saddam's interest in nuclear weapons. He actually launched a covert nuclear program at another site over the next 9 years till obviously the Iraq invasion of Kuwait, right? So put yourself, Piers, you asked me a question at the beginning. It was a great question. Put yourself in Israel's shoes. We should always have empathy for whoever it is, enemies, allies. Let me ask the question back to you. Put yourself in the shoes of an Iranian official sitting in Tehran today who looks at a map of the region and sees Israel with nukes, Russia with nukes, Pakistan with nukes, India with nukes, nuclear-armed America next door in Iraq. Wouldn't you want nuclear weapons? I'm against nukes.
Yeah, but if you're the regime,
if you look at,
but Mehdi, you wouldn't dispute.
Would you not think it's rational?
Well, my response would be this: you wouldn't dispute that Iran's tentacles have been fueling for a long period of time Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and I presume you wouldn't also dispute that the tactical attack on Hezbollah through the pages, 3,000 of them targeted in a very precise way, that has led to Hezbollah basically throwing the towel in and saying we're not going to get engaged in this war with Iran, which is a very significant moment in this whole war, I would argue.
If your question is, has Israel degraded Iran's supports abroad, its proxies, 100%. But that's irrelevant to the rightness or wrongness of this. I'm asking you to put yourself in the position.
But all those proxies want to kill Iranian government, right? So that's why I think that Israel has a right.
Let's not get... Well, as you've agreed, Israel's doing much of the killing right now. But let me just ask you this. Again, Ukraine gave up nukes, got invaded. Saddam Hussein gave up nukes, got invaded and executed. Gaddafi gave up chemical weapons, got invaded, raped and killed. Again, if you're the Iranians, are you not looking at this thinking, this means we need nukes? I would rather not give them an incentive to go get nuclear weapons. I'm anti-nuclear weapons for anyone. So I don't want Iran to have nukes. But the best way for Iran not to have nukes is not to attack them. That makes countries want to have nukes more. It's just rational to go, oh, the countries who have nukes like North Korea, they don't get invaded. So why give them an incentive to get more nukes? Why not actually have a weapons of mass destruction free region? You know which country does have nukes in the Middle East? Israel, in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. You know which country doesn't allow IAEA inspectors into the country? Israel. You know which country hasn't signed the NPT, unlike Iran? Israel. We should talk about Israel's nuclear weapons, which actually incentivize others in the regions, not just Israel, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, to think about nuclear weapons of their own. I'd rather not have more nukes in the Middle East with anyone.
Okay, I want to start with the last point Mehdi made there. And he basically says Israel definitely has nukes. Everyone basically acknowledges Israel has nukes. The Israeli government basically acknowledges they have nukes, but it's like, oh, it's okay. Israel can do whatever they want, basically. Well, they're the only country that has not signed on to the nuclear proliferation treaty because they don't want IAEA inspectors to come in and inspect what they have. And they, of course, have nuclear weapons, probably supplied by the United States, which is completely insane, by the way. And guys, of course, Israel having nukes is going to incentivize other countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran to get nuclear weapons. And again, it's interesting that Piers seems to be like, oh, okay, Iran can't have nukes, of course, because they're insane. Okay, I don't think Iran should have nukes either. But he's not saying anything about Israel having nukes. Of course, that's why Iran wants nukes, because they know their biggest enemy in the region has superior military power like nuclear weapons. There's no question about it. There's no question about it. Why should they have nukes? They should denuclearize. Iran should not have nukes. I totally agree with Mehdi there. It's a great point he makes. And again, it's absolutely true. Iran's probably kicking themselves thinking they should have got a nuke a long time ago. Because if they got a nuke a long time ago, guess what? They wouldn't be invaded right now by Israel and the United States. So, again, completely insane. And again, I want to bring up the regime change thing again. Guys, it's so obvious what their intention is. They're trying to overthrow the regime. And especially with the Americans probably joining in now, it's very obvious that they knew the entire time they wouldn't be able to get a successful operation without the help of the United States. So this was totally plotted by Trump. This was approved by Trump, and he probably knew the entire time he was going to go in. So don't listen to the propagandists on Fox News, on CNN, telling you, hey, you got to do this. You got to go to war. No, say no to war. This is what he campaigned on, guys. It's a disgrace what's happening right now. People got to figure it out because this is a joke. So that's what I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Again, hit that subscribe button. Super important for the algorithm. And my Patreon link down below can support the channel that way. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.